Good afternoon, reading room. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. We are here reading the book Conversations on Common Things by Dorothea Dix. This is day 6. We are taking it 3 at a time. It is from the internet. The link is down below. We often read from books, but occasionally there is something to be said for reading from or having the book right there from archive.net. I was able to download it along with these other ones. Oh, these are my conversations. Rise's book on how the other half lived. And then there's Dorothea Dix, Massachusetts Senate or Congress. Mother, I was thinking when I went with you to the silk merchants from what those beautiful goods were manufactured and whether, like linen, they are obtained from plants. I'm pleased to hear you inquire the nature of those things in common use with which you are not fully acquainted. I will willingly gratify your curiosity. Silk is in an animal production, not a vegetable. You appear surprised and will be more so when I tell you it is the work of an insignificant little worm, which the ingenuity of manufacturers has wrought into such beautiful fabrics. Before you speak of silks, please to tell me something of this singular little creature. The silkworm is a species of caterpillar with 12 very minute feet. It produces a butterfly of the moth kind, which deposits the eggs from which the young worms are hatched. The eggs are about the size of a pin's head. While in a caterpillar state, it eats mulberry leaves. When changed into a moth, it eats nothing but dies immediately after depositing its eggs. How do they make silk? I am quite puzzled to imagine by what means they accomplish their task. They feed several weeks upon the leaves of the mulberry tree and then begin their labor spinning cones about the size of a large nutmeg. These are either white or yellowish. The worm spins itself into these cones as if performing for itself the office of burial, and then changes into what is called an aurelia, which in a fortnight or 3 weeks becomes a moth and bursts through the cone or cocoon, as it is called. But as eating a hole through the cocoon would spoil it for use, those who rear worms bake the cocoons in warm ovens, which process kills the aurelia. These cocoons are formed of one continued and exceedingly fine thread, which is woven and reeled, several of which is unwound and reeled. Several of these twisted together form the thread from which silk is woven. Where are the silkworms raised, Mother? I should like very much to have some. They were originally brought from China, but they are native of all the temperate climates of Asia. They were introduced into Sicily and Calabria from Asia Minor, but the beginning of the 12th century by Roger, King of Sicily, and the weaving of silk is now one of the most lucrative manufactures in the southern kingdoms of Europe. This article was carried to Rome about the 3rd century, where it sold for its weight in gold. We are told in history that the Emperor Aurelian, when his empress requested of him a dress of silk, replied that he could not afford it. Very beautiful silks are imported from India, France, and Italy. Pamphila, a native of the island of Caste, is said to have been the first person who contrived the weak silk into drapery. This is all very interesting. I should like to study history, Mother, and when you permit me to add this to my other studies, I will try to remember all I read. Please inform me how oiled silk is prepared. The cloth or silk must be fastened in a frame and immersed in a mixture composed of 1 pound linseed oil, 1.5 ounces of white lead, 1 ounce umber, and a clove of garlic. These ingredients must first boiled, however, 12 hours over a small fire, when the composition will be fit for use. The silk, after having been immersed, may be hung to dry, after which it must be rubbed with pumice stone to render it smooth. It is then coated with another thick fluid composed of 1 pound linseed oil, 1 ounce vitreous oxide of lead, 4 drachms sulfate of zinc, and 4 ounces white lead, calcified till it turns yellow. These must previously be boiled in an iron vessel until they are reduced to the consistence of paste. The materials thus prepared will be found waterproof when thoroughly dried. Oiled silks are made into hat cases, umbrella coverings, overcoats, aprons, etc. Silks are wrought into a variety of beautiful fabrics. Will you have the kindness to inform me from what cambric and muslin are made? From cotton, which is the product of a plant that grows to the height of about 6 or 8 feet. The leaves are suspended by substance. The flowers are large and numerous, shaped like a bell, and a yellow color mixed with red or purple. These are succeeded by the fruit about the size of a large walnut, which when ripe opens and discloses 3 partitions containing the cotton, which is of a snowy whiteness. Heat swells each flake to the size of an apple. Cotton grows in Syria, Cyprus, and Candia, also in the East and West Indies. It is cultivated in the southern states of North America and is from them a staple article of commerce. Cotton is spun like wool and manufactured into a great variety of cloths, some of exquisite fineness. Have we many manufacturers of cotton in this country? Yes, in all our northern and middle states. They are numerous, but we are indebted to foreign countries for our delicate cambrics and muslins. No country equals India in the manufacture of the last mentioned article. We're talking about the Indus Valley, and so the beginning of the roots of India are in Pakistan. Now, Mother, for wool. I know broadcloths and flannels are made of wool. Wool is the hair or fleece of sheep and is the most valuable part of that animal. It is manufactured into a great variety of articles, both useful and beautiful, among which, besides those you have named, are blankets, coverlets, hats, and yarn for hose, carpets, rugs, and many other articles of domestic comfort. Flannels and blankets are often injured by moths. This may be prevented by strewing slips of sweet flag root between them when laid in trunks or drawers. What countries produce the best sheep, and how many kinds are there? How about what's flag root? How about that, little girl? I hate that. According to Linnaeus, the naturalist, there are 3 distinct species of sheep. The first includes the common sheep, such as you have seen in the country. These are raised also in England. The Spanish sheep are remarkable for the fineness of their wool and are raised in several places in the north of Europe and Asia. The African sheep have short hair like the goat, and the broad-tailed sheep are common in Syria, Barbary, and the interior of Africa. Sheep are also found in the kingdom of Tibet, whose fleeces equal those of the Kashmirian goat in fineness, beauty, and length. They are wrought into elegant shawls and other fabrics and imported from the Indies. The Angora sheep has beautiful erect horns twisting like a screw. These are common in Hungary, in the Rocky Mountains of Pontus, and large numbers are found on Mount Ida in the center of the island of Crete. Woolly sheep are found only in the temperate latitudes, in the torrid and frigid zones. They lose their fleece, which is supplied by a rough, hairy coat. Of the species I have named, there are found many varieties. You know, it's interesting also to me, just as a commentary, that to see the production of this for money is then, you know, there's so much waste and giveaway and not for profit, and you end up then killing off this variety that we have of sheep. Can we find these sheep into the kingdom of Tibet? Because Tibet is, the Tibetan monks were out of there. So yeah, this is really horrible when you think about just the rape of our land. And did they say those silkworms are burned? I mean, come on. Is that what they said? I suppose the sheep is otherwise useful than for its fleece. Yes, its flesh is a delicate and wholesome food. When the flesh of this animal is young, it is called lamb. When old, mutton. The skin is applied to many uses. It is manufactured into shoes, gloves, parchment, covers for books, etc. The entrails, when properly prepared, are used as strings for musical instruments and clocks. The bones, when calcined, are burnt, are used by the sugar refiner. The bones, when calcined or burnt, are used by the sugar refiner. Sheep are very hardy and discover great sagacity in selecting their food. They appear by instinct to foresee the approach of a storm. This is interesting. I thought sheep were totally dependent on the shepherds, and that as I'm reading this, it seems to me that it would be a good idea or of benefit to both man and sheep to not have them be so erosive on our terrain, right? They wreck the terrain, from what I understand from watching Western shows. I don't know if that's true or not, but they're hardy and discover great sagacity in selecting their food. They appear by instinct to foresee the approach of a storm. That's just incredible to me. Your description of the silkworm and of wool from the sheep reminds me of a little hymn I learned in the book you gave me. May I repeat it, Mother? Certainly. I'm happy to see you apply what you learn to good purposes. How proud we are, how fond to show our clothes and call them rich and new, while the poor sheep and silkworm wore that very clothing long before. The tulip and the butterfly are dressed in grayer coats than I. Let me be clad fine as I will. Flies, worms, and flowers exceed me still. I did not think of these verses when I asked of what silk was made, or I should have known at once. It is strange I should not have remembered. Well then, you must try in future to be less forgetful. I will now tell you something of the various processes through which wool passes before it is made into cloth. I will be attentive. The sheep are first washed. In New England, this is done either in the last of May or the 1st of June. When the wool is dried, the shearer cuts off fleece, to which operation the animal can oppose no resistance. The fleece are then sorted according to their degrees of fineness and scoured through thoroughly in hot water in order to cleanse the wool from the oily matter with which it is filled. The wool is then picked and beaten with stiff rods to clear it from all dirt and bits of sticks and grass. Next, it is oiled and either carded by hand with small cards or sent to a carding mill. When carded, it is spun into yarn, reeled, and made into skeins, and is then ready for the weaver, who begins the cloth by putting the warp or the threads, which run the long way of the piece, into the loom. The cloth is formed by throwing the filling, which is the thread that runs across, with the shuttle between the thread of the warp. When the piece is woven, it is carried into the fuller to be scoured, cleansed, and made ready for dyeing. The wool for mixed cloth is dyed before it is spun. Who first thought of making wool into clothing? I cannot inform you. The manufacture is of great antiquity. It was introduced into England from the Netherlands in the 14th century. During the reign of Elizabeth, the manufacture was much increased, and the English now make it one of their chief national commodities of traffic. Maybe it was from Monkey Island. I heard that that's where we came from. Maybe they had the unbelievable information. Those sheep. Now that's a possibility. Again, I believe that those animals do sacrifice. But it is interesting putting it that way, of which they can make no whatever. Lucy, stop it. Stop it. Sit down. Is your cashmere shawl made of wool, Mother? It is manufactured not from the wool of our sheep, but from the hair of the Kashmirian goat of Tibet. The hair of this animal is the finest of any of the species. That of the Angora goat is the next in value. Now see, these are good uses for science, to make these synthetic wares that are not, killing us. If you want mass production. Otherwise, hands off. From it are manufactured our finest camblets, also a kind of sewing silk called mohair. Hose for a very delicate and durable fabric are likewise manufactured from it. The fleece of hair of the Angora goat is distinguished for its glossy whiteness and for being both long and thick. Please to describe the manufacture of linen. Not tonight, my daughter. If nothing unlooked for prevents, I will gratify you tomorrow evening. Good night. Practical questions. Is silk an animal production? How is it produced? From what countries chiefly brought? What is cotton? Describe its growth. What is wool? What are its uses? How many species of sheep are there? Describe the process of manufacturing wool into cloth. What countries yield the finest wool? Conversation 17. Well, Mother, here we are comfortably seated, and if you are not too much engaged, I must claim the fulfillment of your promise to tell me something of the manufacture of linen. Linen is, made of flax, which is a plant with a long, slender, fibrous stem, usually growing 3 feet high, covered with leaves and bearing on the top of the stalk a small blue flower, which produces the seed called lin or flaxseed. Whoops. Interesting. I don't happen to like the paste it makes, but let's see what else. It makes linen. That's crazy. Linen is beautiful. These seeds yield a very useful oil, and when that is expressed, they serve as food for cattle. The flax plant ripens toward the end of August and is pulled as soon as the seed vessels turn brown and bend their heads. After the flax is pulled, the seeds are threshed out and the stalks soaked in water are spread upon damp ground and in order to disengage the outer bark or skin. It is then swingled, that is beaten with a machine till it becomes silky and is freed from all the brittle parts of the stalk. The flax is next hackled, which is done by drawing it repeatedly through a machine filled with long steel spikes. This operation disengages all the coarser and broken fibers and leaves it smooth and even. The coarser part, which is called tow, is manufactured into strong cloth, but tow requires carding, which flax does not. After the flax is dressed, as I have told you, it is wound upon a distaff, which is nothing more than several strong twigs tied at each end and spreading in the middle. It is now ready for spinning, and you may judge of the extreme fineness of the threads of flax by this cambric, which I am making into ruffles. The most beautiful linen cambrics come from Cambrai in Flanders. Holland has long been celebrated for its fine cambrics and linens. In Ireland, these manufactories are very extensive, and we have also fine linens from Scotland, France, and England. I don't know why I'm doing that. In America, I'm testing it out. In America, but especially in New England, flax is raised on almost every farm. The Egyptians also raised great quantities of flax. Their country is peculiarly favorable to the growth of this plant, which there often rises in the height of 4 and 5 feet. We probably see them as those great big almost like palm leaves, right? But they're probably flax that you see in those movies. Is it always white, Mother? No. In its natural state, it is a dark brown. After it is spun and woven into cloth, it is bleached. At the manufactories, this process is varied, but that which is called homemade is boiled, soaked in ley, and laid on the grass exposed to the sun. The cloth becomes white in a few days. You remember the nice linen I had made last year in New Hampshire? It is quite equal to the Irish linen, except in the dressing. Is cloth ever made from hemp? I know ropes, sailcloth, and cables for ships are made from it. Yes, our best sheetings are made of Russia hemp. The plant is somewhat similar to flax, though taller in its growth, and the fiber is much stronger. The process for dressing hemp is much more laborious than that of flax, the stems being tougher and larger. I now know all the materials from which cloths are manufactured. Why do you smile, Mother? Am I mistaken? You are not quite so learned as you think yourself, but that you may not plead ignorance as an apology for again making a similar assertion, I will inform you that cloth is made from many other substances besides those which I have described to you. I will be mindful of what you say, and in future be more careful not to boast of my fancied knowledge. You resolve wisely. I suppose you will be a little surprised when you are informed that a kind of linen is manufactured from stone. From stone? Is it possible, Mother? Had anyone but yourself told me so, I should have supposed they were trying to impose on my credulity. This stone flax is a mineral substance called flexible asbestos, or amianth. It is of various colors, being sometimes found in a silvery white and again of pale and leek green, yellow, and faint red. Its texture is somewhat woolly and it possesses a pearly luster. It consists of small fibers endued with the wonderful property of resisting fire and remaining unconsumed in the most intense heat. Asbestos was known to ancients and was much esteemed by them. They considered it equal in value to precious stones. The wicks of lamps burned in their temples were usually made of amianth. They wrought it into cloth with which they wrapped the bodies of their dead. Where is it found, Mother? It is obtained from every quarter of the globe. Sweden, Saxony, Anglesey, and Portsoy in Scotland yield asbestos. Greenland especially affords this substance and is also abundant in Corsica. That it is used instead of tow for the purpose of packing minerals, etc. I have in my cabinet some specimens from Canada and Vermont, which you may examine. Also some from Cornwall, remarkable for the silkiness and length of the fibers. You must further know that the natives of the Sandwich and other of the Pacific Islands manufacture cloth from the bark of a tree called paper mulberry. The process is very simple, the cloth not being woven but beaten together and smeared with glue. In the East, a species of grass is manufactured into very durable fabrics. Some trees in South America also afford materials for cloth. Thank you, Mother. Will you tell me whether my father's hat is made of wool? In enumerating the different articles manufactured from it, I remember hats were of the number. Hats of the most commonest kind are made mostly of wool, but your father's is made of beaver's fur. This animal, which is also distinguished by name of castor, is remarkable for its social and industrious habits. Will you describe it, Mother? It is an amphibious animal about 2 feet long and 12 or 15 inches broad. It has a broad tail of an oval form, which is covered with seals and serves alike the purpose of shovel and trowel. Something like this, daughter. All right, sorry. Will you stop one moment and tell me what is the meaning of amphibious animal? One that can live both on land and in water. Such are the crocodile, the hippopotamus, the sea elephant, the seal, and many others. Those are all large animals, by the way, Travis. Seal is very large. Hippopotamus, very large. Crocodile, I did think about, because I did think about rhinoceros, but I didn't think about seal. They didn't have to worry about the animals in the sea. I don't know. The mouth of the beaver is pretty long. The ears short, round, and hairy. The teeth very strong and long. The under ones are crooked, project, and are very sharp. With them, they fell trees of the largest size. The legs are short, and the paws are shaped something like a human hand. With these, they dig, soften, and work clay. Beavers vary in color. The most valuable skins are black. The general color is chestnut brown. Some have been found quite white, but they are very rare. The finest beavers inhabit the Canadians and New Britain. They are also found in the northern parts of Europe and Asia. But Mother, do tell me what these singular animals can want of clay and trees. With these materials, they construct themselves houses, my dear. Oh, the wonderful creatures. They are more ingenious than any animal I ever before heard of. Do not birds build themselves nests? Oh, yes, mother, with little bits of straw, sticks, and wool. They do not cut down trees and need clay, and yet I remember they are very ingenious in forming their little habitations. You know, I learnt some pretty lines the day Henry brought me home a bird's nest, which he had found on the ground in the mall when he was returning from school. I will repeat them if you please. I should like to hear them. Much it wins my admiration to view the structure of that little work, a bird's nest. Mark it well within, without. No tool had he that wrought, no knife to cut, no instrument to fix, no bodkin to insert, no glue to join. Excuse me. His little bill was all, and yet how neatly finished, what nice hand, with every implement and means of art, and 20 years apprenticeship to boot, could make me such another. But yet I do think the beavers are very, very wonderful animals, mother. Well, we will allow them the merit of being ingenious. But suppose I tell you how they build their houses. I should like very much to hear. When they intend building, they assemble in companies of 200 or 300, selecting a place where there is plenty of green wood, near a running stream or pond of water. They always build in the water, but as a current would impede their progress, they drag trees and driftwood across the stream and thus form a dam, filling up the interstices with stones, clay, and mud, which they carry between their 4 feet and throat. The dam is of a convex shape, of great strength, being 8 or 10 feet at the base and tapering gradually upward. They build their houses on the causeway or dam, and if the force of the water injures them, they immediately repair the damage. The inhabitations consist of 2 stories, raised one above another. Each beaver has his own cell assigned him, the floor of which is covered with leaves or the branches of trees to make it clean and comfortable. Besides their houses, they excavate holes in the banks of the rivers, which serve as places of retreat when assailed in their abodes. Their works are completed about the last of August, and they then proceed to lay in their store of winter provisions, which consist of tender wood steeped in water and a root which they seek on the sides and in the bottom of the rivers. During the summer, they live upon fruits and vegetables. The hunters destroy these animals for their skins and bags of castor. That their flesh is esteemed by the natives in the winter when it is fat. It is from the downy part of their fur that hats are made. Poor creatures, how can men be so cruel as to kill them? The desire of gain, my daughter, will harden and destroy many of the kind and tender feelings naturally impressed on the heart of man. I do not like to think of the poor beavers, mother. Will you describe the manufacture of hats? They are made in Boston, I believe. Yes, and in most other places. When the skins are taken to the hatters, the first business is to clear them of the fur, which is then carded. Wool and other furs are sometimes mixed with it. A proper quality is taken for a hat and put upon a little square table which has chinks cut through it lengthwise. The workmen, with their instrument, called a bow, work the fur till it mixes well together, the dust passing through the chinks. In this manner, they form 2 pieces or bats, as they are called, into an oval shape, ending with a sharp corner at top. These are hardened by pressing them between two pieces of leather. They are then laid in a vessel over a fire and sprinkled with water. A sort of mold is used to shape the stuff, which by the action of the water pressing and the heat of the fire becomes thickened into a sort of felt. They then turn up the edges of one, lay it aside, and take the other hat, with which they proceed in a similar manner. The next thing is to join the two so as to form a high-crowned hat. It is next dipped into a copper kettle filled with hot water, where they roll and unroll it repeatedly with their hands or a little wooden roller. This they continue to do several hours. The crown is formed by laying it on a wooden block of a proper size and tying it close with pack thread. When the hat is dry, they singe it and rub it with pumice to take off the coarse nap. It is afterwards rubbed with seal skin and lastly carded with the fine card. It is now put into a large kettle and boiled in a dye made of logwood, verdigris, copperas, and alder bark. After being boiled an hour, it is taken out and cooled. This process is repeated several times. When the dyeing is finished, it is dried thoroughly and stiffened with sizing. It is now steamed again, dried, put out the block, brushed, and ironed. Nothing now remains to be done but to trim the line of the hat. This process is sometimes varied in different manufactories. You know, that is crazy work. I mean, that is crazy work. I don't put that much work. I mean, you know, the leather is prepared, and I don't know the process behind that, right? I mean, other than I'm assuming they're using the whole cow. It really is just, I don't know, a way to think about things. A Ted Nugent way to think about things. Right? Faux show. Faux show, Theodore Nugent. Faux show. I will ask Father to take me to a hat manufactory, if you please. I shall be much interested to see these various operations performed. Good night now, dear mother. I shall not soon forget of what hats are made, nor the ingenious animal which is killed to ornament with its fine fur hats of gentlemen, and of little girls too. You forget that you sometimes wear a beaver hat in winter. Practical questions. What is linen? How prepared for use? For what is flaxseed useful? In what countries are made the finest linens? What are some of the uses of hemp? What is stone flax? Of what are hats made? Describe the beaver. How are the habitations constructed? Can you tell me the process of hat making? And so that was 16, 17, and here we are in 18. Oh, mother, see these beautiful white colored flowers which Cousin Elizabeth has given me? They are made of rice paper, and she says if I am not very careful, they will break. The paper is so brittle. The flowers are certainly very beautiful, my daughter, but white is not a color, as you suppose. There are but 7 primary colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. It is from different combinations of these colors that all other colors are formed. White is composed of all the primary colors united. I do not understand how it can be so. I will show you by means of a prism, which is a piece of glass having 3 sides, each perfectly smooth. This, held in the light, will decompose or separate the rays of light, and you will see all the primary colors distinctly and regularly placed in the prism. This is indeed wonderful, but is not black a color? No, it is a privation of all colors. Go into the drawing room, and although the sun shines here, you will see no ray of light or color there while the shutters remain closed. The carpets, the pictures, the furniture are all alike black, but admit the light and you restore their color. Hear what the poet says. Colors are but the phantoms of the day. With that they're born, with that they fade away. Like beauty's charms, they but amuse the sight, dark in themselves till by reflections bright. With the sun's aid to rival him they boast, but light withdraw in their own shades, they're lost. The science of light and colors properly belong to studies at present above your comprehension. At some future time, I will explain the properties of light more fully. Thank you, Mother, but will you tell me what of colors green is composed? Of yellow and blue. Red and yellow make orange. Mixtures of blue and red in different proportion form violet, purple, and lilac. Red, blue, and yellow produce olive. I suppose that black cloth will receive no other color. No, it can receive no light shades. What cloths are most easily dyed? Woolen fabrics take coloring the most readily, silk the next, cotton the next, and linen least of all. Will you be so kind as to tell me what are some of the substances used in dyeing blue? Woad and indigo are the commonest substances. Woad is a plant much cultivated in Europe, though it grows wild in many places. When the leaves are ripe, they are gathered and after laying some time in the ground, are ground in a mill. The substance they produce is then spread to dry. After remaining in heaps 2 or 3 days, it is reduced to powder and sprinkled with water. Being thus alternately dried and wet for the space of a week, it is ready for use. It affords a very deep bright blue. The ancient Britons used to paint their bodies with it. Indigo is a plant about 2 feet high. It grows naturally in the Carolinas and is much cultivated in the East and West Indies. Its leaves are round and green except toward the edges where they incline to brown. Underneath they are silver colored. The flowers are a reddish color resembling pea blossoms, and from them proceed long crooked pods enclosing a seed of olive color. The indigo plant grows very rapidly, and in 6 weeks or 2 months after the seeds have been sowed, it is ready for cutting. How is indigo prepared for use? The plants are laid in a large vat or cistern and covered with water. In this state, they are left to ferment, and the fluid or pulp, which first appears green by exposure to the air, changes to blue. It is now drawn off into another vat and constantly agitated or beaten until the coloring matter unites into one body. Lastly, the water is drawn off and the pulp or indigo is cast in small molds and prepared for sale. Another method of preparing it is this. The plants, being thoroughly dried, are put into large jars of heated water and rapidly stirred round till the coloring matter is combined with the water. The liquid is then carefully strained or filtered through the porous bark of trees into another vessel, where it remains 8 or 9 days. The indigo subsides into a thick sediment, which is transferred to wooden troughs containing a quantity of dried sand. The sand absorbs the moisture while the indigo remains in solid cakes and may be packed for exportation. The best indigo is of a dark, shining blue. What produces a yellow color, Mother? The principal coloring matters for yellow are weld, fustic, turmeric, sumac, and Quercitron bark. Weld or dyer's weed is a plant much cultivated in England. Fustic is the wood of a large tree that grows in the West Indies. Turmeric in its growth resembles ginger. The root is very hard and yellow within and without. Madagascar and the East and West Indies yield it. Glovers use it to color their gloves and brass founders to color their brass. Indians also eat it with rice and other food. The root is difficult to break, heavy and resinous. Sumac is a tree growing plentifully in many parts of North America. Its height is from 10 to 15 feet. The wood affords a brilliant yellow dye. The berries, which grow in large clusters, are of a bright crimson color and, united with some other ingredients, dye a permanent black. They should be gathered of the last of July and carefully dried without exposure either to the sun, rain, or dew. The rays of the sun, after gathering, will extract the color of dampness, destroy its coloring property. Sumac is also used in tanning leather. Quercitron is the inside bark of the red oak tree, which grows naturally in North America. What are the coloring matters for red? Kermes, cochineal, madder, carthamus, and Brazil wood. Kermes, like the nut gall, is an excrescence growing in a species of the oak. It is formed by an insect which is red and exceedingly small. The kernsberry is very bitter and filled with these little insects, and to prevent their loss, the berries, when fresh gathered, are steeped in vinegar. Kermes are used in medicine as well as in dyeing. Red ink is also made of them. From what countries are the kermes produced, Mother? From Spain, Languedoc, Sicily, and some other hot countries. What is cochineal? Cochineal is an insect living on a plant which grows to about the height of 6 feet. Whole plantations of this are raised in Mexico for sake of cochineal, which the Indians take the greatest care to preserve and cultivate. In order to collect the insects, the plant on which they are feeding is shaken gently, and they fall upon cloths purposely spread to catch them. Cloths purposely spread to catch them. They are then dried and packed for sale. Brazil wood grows in America and the West Indies. It does not yield so fine a red as either kermes or cochineal. Madder is the root of a common plant and yields a rich red color. Though not confined to Spain, this plant is extensively cultivated in the Spanish provinces. Smyrna and the island of Cyprus export the best madder. Cattle are very fond of this plant. Carthamus is the flower of a plant cultivated in Spain and the Levant. It contains 2 coloring matters, the one red and the other yellow. The first is chiefly used. What are used in dyeing black? There are very many substances which afford good blacks, with the addition of copperas. Among them is logwood, which communicates a luster to whatever it colors. The wood of this tree is common in the West India Islands and the countries which surround the Bay of Honduras. The bark of the butternut tree, which flourishes in North America, yields at some season of the year a black, at others a brown dye. I suppose in order to dye green, blue, and yellow colors are mixed. As you say, green is formed of these colors. No, woolen, silk, and linen goods are usually first dyed blue and afterwards dipped into a yellow dye, which makes them green. You must now, as I am engaged the remainder of the evening, amuse yourself with my microscope. You will find with it a box containing a variety of curious insects. Bring the microscope to me, and I will show you how it is to be used. Here it is, Mother, and the box too. Pray, what are these beautiful insects which are wrapped in the blue paper. They are cantharides and are used sometimes when people are sick to raise blisters. Please stop one moment and tell me where they are found. They are, as you see, a little larger than the common fly and of a beautiful green and gold color. These flies are colored in Spain, Italy, and in southern countries of Europe, generally also in South America. But those which are considered most valuable for their blistering qualities are brought from Catania and Mount Etna in Sicily. Thank you, Mother. I will not detain you any longer, though I do wish very much to ask something about this creature with long horns and bright wings. It is the golden beetle, but I cannot tell you anything of its natural history now. Good evening. Good evening, Mother. Practical question. Is white a color? What are the primary colors? What cloths are most readily dyed? What substances are used in dyeing blue? Describe them. What substances afford a yellow dye? What are the coloring matters for red? What is cochineal? From what country obtained? Where are cantharides chiefly found? What are their uses? We have completed 3 chapters in our reading room. We will be back here after our 4 days off for conversation number 19, right? Yeah. 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah. So we got through 3 of them. Thanks so much for joining me here in the classroom this week. This has been day 251 in the classroom. It is September 25th. Thanks again for joining me here. I think there are a couple more birthdays for the family. Robbie's is coming up on the 28th, I believe. I don't know what else we got going on. Thanks so much again for joining me here in the classroom, where we are working on making your mind healthy, your body healthy, and your spirit healthy by reading, simply by reading. That's not all we do here in the classroom, but it's a great start, I think. Let's take a great look at those flowers before we take off. And here, let me get in the picture along with my animals. Thanks so much for joining me here in the classroom.